All right, today we're going to talk about properties of logarithms. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first property is the exponent property. So an exponent on everything inside of a log can be moved out front and vice versa. So like if I had a exponent right here, I can always move it out front and write it right out front of my log. And vice versa, if I have something out front, I can write it as an exponent. So go ahead and write down the in other words right here. Okay, for the multiplication property, okay, multiplication inside of a log, we can turn it into two additions of two logs, and we just keep the same base. So the big thing here is that multiplication goes with addition. So if I had two things that I'm multiplying inside of a log, I can split them up into two separate logs of the two things that I'm multiplying. The division property says that if I have division between inside of a log, I can turn it into two logs that are being subtracted. So if I have m divided by n, I can change it into m minus log of n. Okay, so division goes with subtraction. So in the three things, as exponents, we can move out front or as an exponent. Multiplication goes with addition, and division goes with subtraction. So let's look at these examples. So if I had log base 2 of x to the 5th, I can bring that exponent out front. So I would have log, or 5 log base 2, notice how the bases stay the same, of x. Now on this other one, this is kind of tricky. Before I go ahead and do this, technically we have an exponent here. Technically this is log base 4 of x. Remember, this is a square root, so I can write that as x to the 1/2. Okay, now I have an exponent so that I can move it out front. So I have 1/2 log base 4 of x. Now we're going to use those properties to either expand or condense. So the key word in here to expand, that means that we're going to get bigger. So that means that I'm going to give everything its own log. So that's the key thing. Expand means you're going to give everything its own log. So I'm going to go ahead and, if I look, I have a 4 and an a. So I have two types of things there. So that means I'm going to need two logs. So I'm going to write log base 3, and I'm going to write another log base 3. Okay, now I just got to fill in. Our first one is just 4, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 there. Okay, and we talked about multiplication goes with addition, so I'm going to put a plus sign. Okay, now I have a to the 7th. Okay, now I can't be done here because if I notice I have an exponent that I can move out front. Okay, I can move this 7 out front. Now I'm writing it step by step. Some of you might have noticed that right away, but let's go ahead and rewrite this. I have log base 3 of 4 plus, now I'm going to have that 7 out front, log base 3 of a. Okay, now I've expanded. I've given everything its log, so it's two separate logs now, and I'm done with this problem. Now we're going to expand it again, so that means I'm going to give everything its own log. Now if you look, I have three things here. I have a 6, an x, and an 11. So I need to write three logs. So I'm going to have log base 2, log base 2, and log base 2. I like to write it like that so that I just kind of visually see, okay, I need to have three of them there. So the first one is going to be log base 2 of 6. That's the one thing that needs a log. Okay, and it's being multiplied with that x to the 4th, so I'm going to put a plus sign. Okay, and that's x to the 4th. And the last one, it's on the bottom in division, so we know that division goes with subtraction, so I'm going to have to subtract that log base 2 of 11. Okay, now I'm not done. I have this 4 that I can move out front. Okay, so let's go ahead and rewrite what we have. We have log base 2 of 6 plus 4 log base 2 of x minus that log base 2 of 11. And that is our final answer, since we've expanded it and we've given everything a log. All right, now we expanded. Now we're going to condense. Condense means we're going to make it smaller. So in other words, we're going to make this one logarithm. So I'm going to write this as log base 5, and then I'm going to go from there. So the first thing, before I do that, I notice that I have a 3 that I can move in an exponent. So I'm going to put this as y to the 3rd. Okay. Now, I notice this subtraction, I'm subtracting this whole thing, okay? So subtraction I know is division, so I'm going to put a division bar, okay? And then I have, inside I'm going to have x and a 7, and it's addition, so that means that we're going to multiply those. So it's going to be x7, or I like to just write that as 7x. And that is our final answer, okay? Now notice, since this whole thing is being subtracted, both the 7 and the x are on the bottom part of the fraction. Alright, here's your exit ticket. So the two students, and it's on the back of your note sheet, students are having an argument over who expanded their expressions correctly. Determine who is correct and justify your decision. So they both started with the same thing. Okay, they broke this up into two parts, so they start here. But student A says that it should be minus log base 5 of 3 plus log base 5 of x. Well, this student says that this whole thing should be in parentheses and that we're subtracting it. Which one do you think is correct? We kind of talked about it on the last slide, so if you need to go back, go ahead and go from there. So go ahead and decide and then explain, and then go ahead and go on to your practice problems on the class kick.